Hello, I'm Cathrine with Pasco County Library System, and I'm happy to welcome you to Recipes Between Friends. Today we'll be opening the library's favorite cookbook created by the Friends of the Library. I'll be showing you how to make a delicious dish at home. On the menu today is pasta e ceci, Italian for pasta and chickpeas. I started making this dish during the pandemic lockdown when there was a lot more time to try new recipes. I was watching some cooking videos with my husband and knew we had to try this one. Since then, it's been a staple in my home. I enjoy how cozy this makes me feel when I eat it. It's almost like getting a hug from a loved one, the perfect way to end the day. This version of pasta e ceci takes about 40 minutes and makes about 3 to 4 servings, which in my home means 2 to 3 people. If you serve it with some garlic bread, you can stretch it farther and get the 4 servings. So right now we're just heating up the cooktop, familiarizing myself with our equipment. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to see where we are. I like to do the swish test. If it swishes around pretty easily, then I know that it's ready. But it needs a little bit more heat here. So I'm gonna wait a couple more seconds. Induction's pretty quick. Let's see. Feeling pretty warm in there. Let's see, I'm gonna add a little bit more. We're adding some olive oil in preparation of our onions. There we go. We got the swish going with our olive oil. And so now I'm going to add our onion, about a small medium onion, so about like 1.5 cups here. If you like it really oniony, you can add more onion. Totally fine, up to you. And then we're just going to coat it with our olive oil. I'm going to lower the heat a little bit because that's a little hot. We just want it to start sweating it out, getting a little bit of color on them, but we don't want them to burn because that's going to give a really bitter taste to your pasta e ceci. And we don't want bitter, we want like a nice cozy stew. And then we're also going to salt the onion to help release some of that moisture and that flavor. Today we're working with some kosher salt. I just use fine salt normally, but whatever you have on hand works. You gotta make do with what you got at home a lot of the time, and this is one of those dishes where you come home late from work and you're just like, I want something cozy. I know it takes a little bit of time to get set up with all of the vegetables and cooking it, but honestly, this is one of those dishes that are worth it. And once you familiarize yourself with the recipe, you may be able to cook it faster than the estimated 40 minutes. So we're finding our sweet zone here with the heat with this induction cooker. And you can see that the onions are starting to get a little bit of caramelization. I'm gonna let them do their thing for a minute. Let it hang out. Yeah, so the heat you want it at is about a medium high heat at home. On this Inducto cooktop, I have it on 900, which seems like it's the happy zone for getting our onions started. And we're almost there as far as getting that little bit of caramelization. But like I said, we don't want it super brown. We just want to get it started. Because once you add those tomatoes later down the line, these onions will not soften anymore. Because once you add that acid, onions, they're gonna stay at the firmness that they are. So keep that in mind. Okay, I see a good bit of color over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my garlic. I'm using 5 cloves because I think a happy home has a lot of garlic. But this recipe only calls for about 3, which I think is the minimum with garlic, to be honest. You need at least 3 garlic cloves to have a happy dish. But I'm using 5, so if you were in this space with me now, you would have some garlic fragrance going on. You know, and then if you don't like garlic at all, you can just add a little bit, just to get that flavor in. But I do recommend cutting it, like slicing it thin, not mincing. Because if you mince it, that's gonna burn way too quickly and you're gonna have that bitter flavor. So we got our heat into our garlic. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our chickpeas. So today we're using canned chickpeas and they're already cooked. With the canned chickpeas though, I will say it adds on to that time. So the 40 minutes that we estimated includes the canned chickpeas, because a lot of it is trying to get that canned flavor out of the chickpeas and getting it back to like a natural freshness. So if you make chickpeas at home, if you cook them yourself at home, definitely use those. You can look online for ways to cook chickpeas in slow cooker. So if you don't have a lot of time, you can just soak your chickpeas, add them in there. And I love doing that. Cook them in advance and freeze them. And then you don't have to have them in here as long. But we're gonna have these go for about at least 5 minutes or so to work on getting that tin flavor out. And what I'm doing here is I'm mashing the chickpeas against the edge of the pot. And that's gonna release a lot of the starches and help thicken up our soup down the road. Soup, stew, one or the other. There's a debate of what is a soup and what is a stew. I just know this is pasta e ceci, and it's brothy and it's cozy. We'll get to the brothy part soon, I promise. We'll be there before you know it. All right. So I'm gonna lower this just a little bit because I don't want those onions to burn while my chickpeas are warming up and getting rid of that tin flavor of a can. All right, so we're gonna let it do its thing. So now I'm gonna add our rosemary and our red pepper flakes. Now, if you don't like any zing in food, you can leave this out, or you can just add just a little bit. But I like some zing in here, and I add, I'd say probably about a half teaspoon. That might be a little generous, but I eyeball it here. So go with your gut. You know how much red pepper you want. It's your recipe. You can make it how you want it. So we're just gonna start. Oh, we got our bloopers. Rosemary and our spatula here. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of color developing in this pan, which tells me we're gonna add our tomatoes. So when you get the whole peeled tomatoes from the grocery store, you can get any one you want. You can get the store brands. You can get an expensive brand, whatever you want to do. But the important thing is make sure it says San Marzano tomatoes. Anybody who follows a food scientist who's on a popular cooking channel will know that they recommend this as well. You can comment on who you think it is. But it's going to be, what we did was we took the whole peeled tomatoes, and you can either go in with a potato masher and mash them up, or you can go in with your hands, get familiar with the tomato juiciness, or you can have a cooking friend, a little one, help you out with that. So we're not going to add the whole can, but we're going to add a good bit of it because I like a hearty tomato flavor, and this is really going to help with the consistency of our soup, our stew, our pasta e ceci. So we're going to add about that much, and then you're going to stir it here, get it all incorporated. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cook all of this together. We're not going to add the water yet. We're going to cook all of this together for maybe about 10 minutes or so. You can follow the recipe in your book. I don't have it in front of me. I'm just used to cooking this at home and just knowing. But you'll add this and you'll know it's time to add the water when the consistency of what's in front of you is jam-like. It gets thick. So instead of like having the liquid in here where you see it running around, you'll see it like start sticking a little bit. And I have a little bit of a chunky tomato in there, so I'm gonna chop a little more. All right. And we're gonna let this cook for a little bit, do its thing. So here we are, we're at that consistency that we want. You can move your spoon around and you see how the liquid isn't coming out. So we're nice and jammy or thick for our stew here. And we're gonna add 4 cups of water to this, and we're gonna turn up the heat to high because we want this water to come to a boil. And then we're gonna stir it around, make sure everything's all together in the broth, in the water. Now, if you wanna get really fancy, because this is such a simple dish, another way you can boost the flavor, make it extra special, you can do vegetable broth, you can do chicken broth if you eat chicken broth, but really you'll find that the hug it's gonna be there, I promise, the hug. So we're just on our highest heat here, which is quite high actually, so I'm a little timid about it, but we'll see how it goes. And we want to bring it to a boil. And then once that's boiling, we're going to take our orecchiette or your whatever pasta you chose, and it's 6 ounces for this whole pot, and we're going to cook it in there. It's going to all be one pot. That's why I love this dish. And then I have this box is 12 ounces, so I'm just going to put half, which is going to be about 6 ounces. Don't be afraid to eyeball it. If you get a little bit extra noodles or pasta in there, not a problem, you got some more pasta. Okay, so our dish here is boiling. I'm just gonna give it a quick stir and make sure that boil stays. See how it went away? It's coming back. Give it another second here. Make sure it's hot enough for our pasta. And then just follow the time on the box for whatever pasta you got. And then before you say, okay, it's done, just double check, take one of the pasta shells out, give a little bite test or press with a spoon, and if you make pasta at home, you'll know, okay, this is ready or it needs another minute, because we have a lot more than water in here. Sometimes it takes an extra minute or 2 in this lovely pot that we have going on here. So now we're at a rolling boil, so I'm gonna add about half the box here. I'm gonna try and eyeball it. Or if you have a scale at home, you can measure out the 6 ounces if you want. Okay, so it's about half the box in there. And we're just gonna give it a nice stir. And then if you don't like rosemary like throughout the soup, you can definitely take it out sooner when you're cooking, so that way less leaves get distributed. But I really love the herbiness that it adds, so I just keep it in. Once I add it, it's in here until it's time to serve. So I'm gonna let that be part of the boiling process too. You can see that already one of our stems here has given up all its beautiful fresh leaves. And I'm gonna let this cook down. I'm gonna lower the temperature a little bit. We don't want it to burn. Okay. We want it to be boiling, and so since I'm doing orecchiette, the box says about 12 minutes, so I'm probably gonna do it for at least 13. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. And while it's boiling, you just want to keep an eye on it. Stir it every now and then. Make sure nothing's sticking. Every pot and pan is different, so you just want to. I mean, you're at home, so you know what you need to do. But it's good to keep it stirred around so nothing sticks together. And when I'm cooking, I like to have a podcast on. We have a cool Pasco podcast. The library also has wonderful ebooks you can listen to while you're cooking. Highly recommend. I'm trying to remember what book I'm currently listening to. It's a romance. I'll try and rack my brain. So I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna check this one more time. Okay, let's see if I can get it out. Oop, oh, nope. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if we were able to see that, but if your spoon goes right into it easily, oh yeah, that's done. So I'm gonna turn off the heat here. Just do a final stir. And you can see in the pot that some of these chickpeas are nestled in nicely in the orecchiette pasta. and that's why I love using the orecchiette. I'll keep using it. All right, so we have our pot, and at the very end, once your pasta is done cooking and you've turned off the heat, we're gonna go ahead and add your choice of cheese, Parmesan. Like I said, today we have our plant-based Parmesan, and we're just gonna add some in. And what this is gonna do, it's gonna add that extra level of like consistency. It's gonna be more creamy, and it's gonna be a crowd pleaser here. So I'm just gonna stir all that in, and it basically just incorporates itself really quickly. You can see it's dissolving in there. All right, so we've dissolved it. And then when you go to serve, you can put a little bit more on top. And we got our cut fresh parsley. And there we go, pasta e ceci. I had a great time cooking with you today at the Regency Fresh Test Kitchen. Be sure to stop by your favorite Pasco County Library branch to purchase your own copy of Recipes Between Friends. The cookbooks are only $10, and all of the proceeds support library programs and events. We appreciate your support and hope to see you soon.